Okay. Hi everyone, Shakti here, and I am compelled to do this live onto my wall this morning. I was going to make this message just a live into my private Awakening Shakti group, but I felt really guided to make it public and put it here on my wall for everyone and anyone to see, hear, listen and receive, because it just feels like such an important and potent message to share. I feel quite emotional already, even though I don't really have a script for what I'm going to say, but I just know that I have to speak these words, and yeah, I just have to speak these words. So I don't know quite where to begin. It's pretty overwhelming, actually. All right, let's start where I just feel inclined to start. So it's all connected. That's the first thing. Everything that you are experiencing in your life right now is connected. Your personal relationships, your inner relationship with yourself, what's happening politically, it's all connected. I'm very aware that we're in this moment historically where there is a so-called pandemic happening globally, and a response to that is frightening a lot of people, traumatizing a lot of people, and that there is also kind of a counter movement to this and an uprising of truth and awareness and integrity that is kind of on a very different tack to the mainstream narrative. It's all connected, it's all related, and we're all a part of it. And I just know from the very depths of my being that the most important response that we can all make to this situation begins with us, and it begins with us doing our own individual healing work, our own individual raising of our consciousness and our awareness. And as each of us does this, quite naturally, everything around us will be transformed. I know this to be true. And I'm going to give you a really concrete personal example of how this works. And this is why I'm so moved and so inspired to speak this morning. So this morning I was sorry, the internet just cut out. I was sitting in bed this morning meditating. I meditate every morning. It's a really important part of my practice, my daily practice, and my phone rang. I wouldn't normally answer my phone, but I was tempted to look, and I was really shocked to see that the person calling me was my dad. My dad has probably called me in my entire life, definitely less than 10 times in my entire adult life since I've left home. I'm 56 now. So I left home and went to university at 18. He's called me less than 10 times in that entire spectrum of time, probably less than 5 times. He definitely hasn't called me much. I've had a very difficult, tumultuous and painful relationship with my father. He's 90 now. He was the classic patriarch, embodying and expressing all of the worst shadow qualities that the masculine could possibly express, in terms of being a little bit narcissistic, bullying, dominating, controlling, intolerant, misogynistic, sexist, racist, lacking compassion, not present, emotionally distant, abusive to my mother, physically abusive to me and my sister sometimes. Not there for me at all in my years of growing up. So that was my relationship with my father. And for me, he represented the worst of patriarchy. And my mother too, very, very wounded in her own way, also the worst of patriarchy, expressing and embodying the feminine as victim, the feminine as powerless, the feminine as hopeless, the feminine as codependent. So that was my modeling as a teenager. And of course, that wounding and the conditioning and the culture that I grew up in, which was a very patriarchal culture. I was wolf whistled at from the age of 11 or 12. I was sexually harassed. I was sexually abused. It was just normal growing up as a woman in those days to be objectified and to feel like a sexual object. So I'm just kind of giving you the picture here. Because of this, I experienced some really difficult times in life. I had dysfunctional relationships. I was addicted to love and sex. And of course, that catapulted me onto a healing path. Well, not of course, but it did. And something woke up in me about 17, 18 years ago now, where I went on this journey of awakening, of self-exploration, of self-healing, because I so needed to heal my own wounds and figure out what was happening, why I kept attracting these partners who were being unfaithful, why I kept attracting men who would abandon me, why I would give my heart away so easily and then get hurt and be in abject pain and unable to cope with life for months. Okay, just giving you the reality here, why I chose an abusive partner, you know, not even that long ago. So I went on this journey of healing, of awakening, of inner discovery, and it's been my life for the past 17, 18 years. It became what I do. I became a teacher, I became a healer, I became a facilitator, I became all of those things, and still constantly doing my own inner healing work, my own self-exploration, my own devotion to cultivating deeper states of awareness and consciousness, always, continuously. And of course, this wounding with the masculine and the feminine has been such a huge part of it for me. To keep on healing that wound with my father was the primary thing that I discovered was at the root of so many things. All the dysfunctional relationships that I had been in and attracted, all the unavailable men that I had attracted, the fact that I had found it difficult to earn money and keep money, also related to that relationship with my father. So many things. And you know, even though I did many different layers and levels of healing, as I understand it, you know, we have layers and layers and layers in this. And I thought I'd done it, and then there was another layer. I thought I'd done it, and then there was another layer. And still my dad would trigger me. He would trigger the hell out of me. I hated him. I blamed him. I cursed him. You know, he could trigger me just like that. Back into the wounded teenage girl, and there I was again, reacting to what he was saying, feeling abandoned because he didn't love me or care for me, all of these things. So this has been my journey. I don't need pity, I don't need advice, by the way, because I'm absolutely fine. And this has been the greatest gift to me. This prime wounding has been what has catalyzed me to be who I am and to show up in the world as I do now. It's catalyzed me to such a deep level of self-love that I can stand here now and say I love myself more fully and truly than I ever have. And it's catalyzed me to keep on doing this inner work of healing and integration of my masculine and feminine within myself, because I know that this is the way to heal myself and the world. And my vision for the world is a world where there is love, a world where there is peace, a world where there is harmony, a world where there is understanding, a world where the environment is nurtured and protected and guarded and upheld and sustained, a world where there is no rape, there is no abuse, there is love and harmony between men and women and between masculine and feminine. That is my vision, and that vision, which I feel quite emotional about when I talk about it, has come because of that wounding, you see. And that is what has given me the divine inspiration to be who I am, showing up as I am now in this moment. Feeling aligned with God, feeling aligned with Source, feeling like Shakti, the divine feminine energy and power, moves through me and speaks through me as truth and as a catalyst for awakening in others. This has all come from this wounding. Okay, so there's nothing negative about it. It's a beautiful gift. And the thing that is most profound and moving is that this particular month, I teach a course, a 9-month course for women called Awakening Shakti. It's all about this deep dive into inner transformation to become a woman who stands fully in the pillar of her power and her energy, her heart and her sexuality. I'm so passionate about supporting other women to become and embody this. That's my life's work. And this month in the course has been dedicated to meeting the masculine. And so we have journeyed in very various ways through deep meditation to meet him in stillness, so that we know that he, ultimately divine presence, consciousness, God, source, whatever you want to call it, is there with us always. We are never abandoned. We have processed and healed our inner wounds with the masculine. Again, through forgiveness ceremonies, through self-exploration, through taking back our power and our responsibility, through loving and feeling all those wounded, hurting parts inside ourselves, because they hurt, and we have to feel all the feelings of pain and abandonment before we can move on to forgiveness and healing. The feeling has to be done. It's part of this inner work. And so this month I've been doing the work again with my group and feeling the energy of that. I've been interviewing the most amazing divine masculine embodiments and sharing these interviews, and of course enjoying that transmission and that exchange with men who are awakened and standing in their light and standing in their integrity and their power. And it has been such a beautiful exchange. I've met a man who's just come into my life out of the blue, standing in his truth and his integrity as an awakened man. I mean, wow, how amazing is that? And then yesterday, get this, yesterday I interviewed Dan Aston Gregory. What an amazing light warrior for truth, standing up, holding this light, this integrity, this sword of truth in the face of all this nonsense about the pandemic, all the lies, all the manipulation. And there he is in his true divine masculine, showing up solid, rooted, anchored, and channeling the most divine truth that is also a catalyst for awakening in others. So yesterday I interviewed Dan, and here's the kicker. I haven't even got to the bit about my dad yet. When I first did a healing, well, it wasn't even with the intention of healing, but I first did a mini meditation about 8 years ago maybe, to meet my inner masculine for the first time. Guess who showed up? My inner masculine was an alpha male. His name was Dan. I jokingly called him Dan the Man. He was an alpha male who worked in finance. He worked in the city. He was super successful, high flying, go-getting. That was my inner masculine. He sat in his chair with this big, what do you call it? A man spread, with his hand on his big cock, his big balls. And he was cocky as fuck. And that's who I met the first time I did that meditation to meet my inner masculine. He was not aware. He was eyeing all the women in the room up. He was using his sexuality to chase and to seduce. That's who I met. And of course, since that time, he's evolved a lot. And my inner masculine has now become, because I check in with him regularly, a more conscious, grounded, feminine loving, nature loving, earth loving, kind of like a combination of a conscious Dan the Man and a Native American Indian elder. That's who my inner masculine is now. And so yesterday I was speaking with Dan Aston Gregory. Dan used to be a worker in the city. He's an entrepreneur. He's a leader, and he has basically walked the path of integrating that alpha male personality with consciousness. And so yesterday he was sitting opposite me for an hour and we were speaking, and suddenly as I came off that call, I was like, wow, there he is, a reflection to me of an aspect of my inner divine masculine sitting right there. Dan, there he is. Thank you very much, Dan. The outer reflects the inner, just like that. And it gets better. So this morning, as I said at the very beginning, I was meditating. I meditate every morning. It's really important to do that right now. Really important. My dad phoned. As I said before, my dad never phones me. He's been this arch patriarch. We've had a very tricky relationship. My dad is on the phone to me at 8:30 in the morning, and I'm thinking, is something wrong? Has he fallen over? Is he ill? Is he in hospital? What the heck is going on? He's 90, and I lost my mum in May this year, so I thought maybe something had happened. He says to me, this PCR test, it doesn't actually test for COVID. I'm like, I know, Dad. It's not accurate, he says. I know, Dad. They're talking about all these cases, but the deaths haven't gone up. I know, Dad. So he was beginning to tell me that he'd discovered and uncovered what I have been feeling, knowing, and saying and sharing since the very beginning of what's been happening since April, since March, whenever it was. I said, I know all this, Dad. And he said, I know you know. I'm not telling you. I'm not calling to tell you. I'm calling to tell you how I feel. I'm calling you to tell you how I feel about this. This is a man who has hidden his emotions, had a stiff upper lip, closed his heart to the world all his life. He's calling me. We have locked horns many times. Normally, if ever I have shared anything with him, he has argued with me and told me to shut up, or worse. When I was a teenager, he slapped me around the face for daring to have a different opinion to him. This morning, he called me and said, I'm calling you to tell you how I feel about this. I'm shocked. I'm angry. Why isn't anyone telling us this? Why isn't anyone asking the obvious questions? My dad has read the Daily Mail all his life. He watches the BBC. He barely goes out. But he is intelligent. Just, unfortunately, until now, his intelligence has been very closed down in a very dogmatic way. Now he's on the phone to me, telling me how he feels about this. He feels betrayed. My dad worked hard all his life. He was a slave to the system. He was in the RAF at the end of the Second World War, in the Berlin airlift. One of his good qualities is he is loyal and he is a man of his word. He can't believe no one is saying this. He can't believe no one is acknowledging this truth. And he's calling me to tell me. So it's like he's had this awakening. And here's the funny thing, quite sweet really. He's invited his brother, who is in his mid-80s, to come round and have a cup of coffee and talk about it, because his mid-80s-year-old brother has the same opinion as him. He's also woken up to what is actually happening. My dad, who has never asked me for advice, ever, in my entire life, who has rejected any advice I've ever given him from a loving place, was asking me today for sources of information, for some other places he can go to find out more. He's just bewildered, still looking for an authority, like why is nobody in authority saying this? So I had to say, Dad, this is about us becoming our own authority. But what a wake up, like what an incredible wake up. And I can only put this down. I would never, ever have dreamt this possible. And I'm really moved by it. And I can only say this has been possible because of my inner focus on healing this wound with my dad, and this inner focus on creating a loving union between my awakened feminine and my awakened masculine here in my heart, and the dedication I've given to this process for myself. And it's beginning to reap rewards in my family and affect and impact everything around me. I truly, truly believe this. And we all know, I think at some level we all know that, but perhaps We don't want to know it because it puts the onus back on us. But the point is, as my dad was saying, for 90 years he's been used to giving away his power to the authority figures, the patriarchal figures, you know, the tyrants who are there in power, who are not at all powerful. They are fucking weaklings and cowards. They don't know what it is to stand in their true masculine power. They are afraid. They are not acting out of integrity. They are acting out of fear. They are acting out of their own woundedness. They are acting out of their own shadows. And they don't even know it. They are not powerful at all. But we are powerful. We are so powerful. We are so, so powerful. So I haven't seen it if there's any comments, but I just want to say, if you want to know what I've been doing to get to this place, I meditate every day without fail, sometimes twice. I feel the feelings to heal them. I don't blame anyone else for what I'm feeling. I hold my hands on my heart, I breathe with what I'm feeling, and I allow all the feelings that are really fucking uncomfortable to come up, and I love them, and I hold myself in that until the energy, emotion is just energy, passes through. You have to do that. You have to feel all the fucking uncomfortable stuff first. I forgive when I felt and when it feels true, only when it feels true. I use the Hawaiian forgiveness prayer. I'm sorry, please forgive me. I love you, thank you. I educate myself. I read books incessantly. I reach out and look for evidence of where there is the awakened feminine, where there is the awakened masculine. I interview him. I speak to him. I surround myself with his energy. I keep doing that inner work, and I keep coming back to my heart, because that's where the masculine and the feminine meet, in the heart, ultimately, there. So you have to feel your heart. And if anything is blocking that and stopping it, like in my interview with Dan yesterday, we spoke about how judgment shuts this down. You can't be in judgment of anyone else and be in your heart. And what's going to shift this whole situation is all of us dropping into our hearts. All of us. And meeting ourselves there and meeting one another there in that place. It's not a pipe dream. It's a reality. It's possible, and it starts with you meeting yourself in your own heart, and it starts with you doing your own healing work. That's where it all begins. But it truly does change things. I'm just still blown away, and, you know, we've only just begun. Like, what else is possible? You know, what else is possible? So thank you for watching. Thank you so much for bearing witness to my sharing. And I just send huge amounts of love to everyone in the world, like literally to everyone in the world, to every hurting heart, to every hurting masculine, to every hurting feminine, to everyone at war with themselves. I send you love. Love.